Hey guys, welcome back to another quick impressions video. This time around for this game right here, Singularity for the PlayStation 3. This is a first-person shooter developed by Raven Studios and published by Activision. And I'm gonna be just completely honest right off the gate and say that this game is not a very good first-person shooter. Good enough for me to actually play through the game and finish it. But it lacks. It has a lot of flaws, and it lacks the high production values that other games in the genre offered this generation. So, but I did get the game for once. It was really cheap at GameStop, and by reading the back of the box, the game does offer a pretty interesting storyline and some pretty interesting gameplay mechanics on concept. The execution on paper is not optimal, but some interesting ideas in this game that I wish they would have been expanded in a more high production value type of way. I do believe that I don't want to blame the developer straight out of the gate, but I think this might be an issue more with the publisher, with Activision, just not giving this game a high enough budget. So in a way, it does feel like a somewhat lackluster first-person shooter that was limited in its production values. I'm not really sure. I don't think I ever played another game developed by Raven Studios, so I'm not a person to judge their work, but. Regarding the game, I read some impressions, and a lot of people compared this to some things are similar to BioShock. So any game that has similarities to BioShock are gonna get my interest right away, because BioShock is one of my favorite games of all time. So that was another reason for me to pick this up. And I think that BioShock similarities are there, but they're very superficial. For once, I think. The game uses the Unreal Physics engine, which is the same engine that powers the BioShock games. So maybe that's the first similarity right there. So the game does have that BioShock, look to it in terms of the just the overall environment, and I guess the other similarity is that this is not a straight-on first-person shooter in which you use weapons exclusively. You use other powers that relate to time. So that's when the interesting things come from this game. There's a lot of the story relates this catastrophe involving creating a different timeline called the Singularity, and you play this game both in the present time and in 1955, which is when that accident occurred. So early on in the game, you find this device called a TMD, which I believe stands for Time Manipulation Device or something like that. And the TMD allows you to control time in several ways. For example, if you see a like a rusted broken stairway, you can use your TMD to revert time and turn that rusted staircase into like a brand new one, so you can use it and go up a level in the game. Or you can use it to attack enemies and make them age really fast and they turn into ashes and stuff like that. Or you can create like this orb that when you shoot the orb, if the enemies go inside it, time goes by really slowly inside the orb, so you can shoot the enemies easily, and or you can use that same orb to slow down certain objects. So if there's a something blocking your way that's moving really fast, you can use the orb, you slow down time, and that gives you enough time to pass through that section. So some puzzle elements are combined with the typical first-person shooter action. And another cool thing about the game is that it combines survival horror elements with regular action, because when the Singularity accident occurred, all these radiation turned normal people into these I guess monster or zombie-like creatures that are really fast, and they attack anything that's on their path. So the game does have that survival horror vibe in some sections, and some other sections you just fight against regular soldiers that and that's your typical first-person shooter action segments. So the game, like I said, on concept, the game is actually really good, but the execution was not optimal, and I know the graphics were a little bit lackluster, maybe because it's a somewhat old game. This is from 2010. But I wasn't impressed with the graphics at all, and I was not impressed with the atmosphere and the environment, because almost or nearly every level has like a very industrial feel to it. Even when you go back in time to 1955, the buildings, they all look the same. For the most part, you're inside research facilities and labs and whatnot. So the game looks, the presentation, it's somewhat boring and just bland. And another thing that really took the immersion out of me was since the game takes place in the Soviet Union or Russia, the game has the voiceover. They give the Russian accent to the soldiers. And just like in BioShock, you have all these audio logs that help you understand the story and what happened in the Singularity accident. And they're all, told with this Russian accent. Just, I guess they were trying to help you get immersed into the game. But, the Russian accent gets so old really quick. It may sound like a, I don't know, like a little bit sensitive demand on my behalf, but it really gets annoying really fast. It's like a really poorly narrated Russian accent that it's present throughout the game, because the enemies they yell in that accent, and then you have all these audio logs which are told in the same accent. So for me, it didn't do anything as far as immersive, the immersion factor. And another thing that really bothered me, this game doesn't have subtitles. For some reason, me personally, I love turning the subtitles on, just so I can sometimes read in case I miss something. No subtitles in this game, so that's a gripe that I have with this game. And I don't recall, I think pretty much all the current generation games have subtitles, so I'm not really sure if that's part of the low production value, low budget issue that I was talking about earlier. But another thing that irked me is that the game advertises that you only need 8 megabytes installation on your PS3, and so I was like, cool, because my PlayStation 3 is an old model. It's an 80 gig hard drive, and I don't have a whole lot of space left in it. But then when I play the game, I get a message saying that this game requires 3 gigs for optimal performance, and the game ran really slow. The textures were like blurry, so I'm like, great, I'm gonna have to delete at least 3 gigs of data on my hard drive, so that the game looks a little bit better, because like I mentioned before, the game is not it's not a looker. It's just an average looking first-person shooter. So overall, do I recommend this game? I'm gonna go ahead and say yes, if you're curious in that whole time mechanic that the game has. And I'm saying this because the game is available. I mean, you can get this for under $10 nowadays. So even if you're remotely interested, I'm gonna say go ahead and give it a shot. The game is pretty short, so even if you're not enjoying it as much, you can force your way to the end to see what happens in the story. I don't regret my purchase. I don't regret me playing this game, but again, I think there are many other better first-person shooters out there in the market. But overall, Singularity, a below-average first-person shooter for the PlayStation 3 and 360 as well. So that's my impressions video on Singularity. hopefully you guys enjoyed, and thank you for watching.